Hey
Hello,
man.
Bear. Thank you so much for your time. What a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, man.
How's it going?
Things are good, man. Just getting ready to travel to the other side of the world.
Amazing, amazing. We're so excited to see you down under and finally get to hear your work live. Firstly, I'd absolutely love to congratulate you on 20 years of creating all of the themes and tracks that we all know and love, as well as I'm sure so many more years of creating art. I'm sure this is absolutely monumental for you. So I'd like to start by uh, connecting as fellow art lovers. How are you feeling amongst all this?
It's pretty exciting to be able to look back on a 20-year career. You know, and essentially, I mean, I'm 46, and I think I fell in love with film music when I was 6. So it's like the 40th year of thinking about film music and loving it more than like anything else in the world. So it's pretty exciting. Looking back on it all and seeing what I've pieced together and the things I've gotten to do and all the people I've been able to work with and being able to take it out on the road and actually connect with other people that like the same things I like. It's pretty exciting.
Amazing, amazing. So you first got your love for TV and film music when you were 6 years old. I was going to list since that time just even a handful of your works, but I think I'd have a simpler time listing things that you haven't done. I mean, such a amazing, huge repertoire. So, what drew you to contributing to composition for such diverse range of mediums such as TV, films, and even video games?
I love telling stories. I love being a part of storytelling. When I think about music, I think of it in narrative terms. Um, and so I think film scoring, television scoring, video game scoring was an obvious fit for my passions. I loved music even when I was a kid and sort of figured out how to express myself in that medium. And then I also just love collaborating with people. And there's very few things more collaborative than trying to get a bunch of different artists in different disciplines to tell the same story together. So you have a director, a writer, producer, actors, game developers, choreographers, lighting, editing, sound. Music is just one part of these disciplines, and so I was always sort of drawn to that. When I was in high school, I would make little movies and make my friends work on them, and I'd make bands and I'd make my friends be in them. And when I went to college, I just put up flyers everywhere to score student films. I've always been on the lookout for people to do things with. And that sort of culminated last year when I put out my rock record, The Singularity,
Hmm.
because it wasn't just film and orchestra, it was also rock and metal. And I reached out to Slash and Serge Tankian from System of a Down and Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Rufus Wainwright and all these really eclectic, interesting artists. And everybody came on board because I think it was fun, right? So it's like I've always just accumulated creative projects around me. That's just how my brain works.
Amazing. That's so amazing to hear. You mentioned the Singularity, which I understand you co-wrote and co-produced with your brother Brendan.
That is
Um,
correct, and he'll be on the
that
road with me when I come to Australia. So
oh,
he's
amazing.
a key member of my band and my family, obviously. So bringing Brendan out on the road has been a blast.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely amazing. Well, we're so excited to hear both of you work your magic together. The Singularity, in my opinion, a true paradigm of just musical versatility. It's got everything you could ever want. And yeah, so many features, as you said, Serge Tankian, Corey Taylor, Rufus Wainwright, Slash, even a crossover I never thought I'd ever anticipate, Thor the God of Thunder and Thranduil the Elven King themselves, of course, being the amazing Ryan Hurst and Lee Pace doing narration.
Yeah, and
I also
don't forget Michonne from Walking Dead, the Denai
course,
Guerrero.
of course. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
such an incredible lineup of features on that album. I also understand you started sort of conceptualizing that album early in your life. What sparked the idea and desire to create that album? And how did you go about finding the right parts for those people that you collaborated with?
One of those tracks I wrote when I was 16 years old. It's literally the first song I ever wrote. It's called Escape from the Machines, and it's not very different from my demo that I wrote in high school. In fact, I've released the demo. You can go find it on Spotify if you want to compare and contrast. The biggest difference is that I have Slash and Joe Satriani on the Singularity version. It's always been something that has been percolating in my brain, developing as I develop as an artist. And then I think what happened was after 15 years of scoring projects for other people, I really had this moment when I wanted to see what I had to say as an artist, um, and I learned so much doing projects like Battlestar Galactica and The Walking Dead and God of War and Outlander and Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power and Godzilla, King of the Monsters, like all these things. Like I pieced together all of these experiences and I learned something from each of them. And I thought, well, I'll just channel all of this, all of it, into a rock record. And I really didn't have any ambitions of it being something that had a lot of guest stars on it or anything like that. It just evolved very organically. And I think it's just I really think it's no different than my student film scores or the projects I made in high school. I just get so excited about what I'm working on. And I call my friends and I invite them in. And then I ask them to invite their friends. I mean, that was how I learned how to score film in college, was just assembling orchestras from all my friends. And this was sort of the same thing. I just assembled rock bands from all my friends, and it ended up with some pretty amazing people on it that I learned so much from. So it was amazing, and to be able to now take these songs out on the road, combined with the material that I also did in film and television and video games. I got to say it's a very surreal, fun experience, and I think it's going to be a concert that's unforgettable.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I know that I'm absolutely just itching for July 23rd to just roll around the corner and to finally come and see you.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
you are a master at creating themes for characters in the stories that you give sound to, from the inner conflict of selfless heroes such as Elrond to the menacing presence of Negan when we first meet him in The Walking Dead. Sorry, what's the process for creating a character's theme? How do you determine what notes and chords should be woven into the sounds that are heard when we're following them?
That's a fantastic question. And I would say the most difficult part of my job, I try to boil down musical information that conveys something so efficiently, so effectively, that in a couple seconds, you understand what I'm trying to communicate about that character. Negan is an interesting example. It was just this weird detuned guitar that sort of felt like it was broken. And it was just a texture. But when combined with this visual of Jeffrey Dean Morgan walking onto screen, holding this baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, it all married, right? And it sends a signal to your brain. There's something wrong with this guy, right? And then you become conditioned to it. You start expecting that emotion every time you hear it, even if he's not on screen. I like to make it something very simple. I mean, even the notes that I use to write a theme for Elrond in Lord of the Rings, or Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, I try to boil it down to something that could be played by one finger on a piano. If I can play the notes on a piano with one finger and you still have an emotional reaction, then I think that that theme is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it will be very effective when it's orchestrated properly and mixed and merged into the texture of the narrative. But I spend sometimes as much time coming up with those notes as scoring an entire episode of a show or scoring an entire movie. It can take me weeks of tinkering with the notes. It's a thankless process, but the weird thing is that you can be completely lost in it, and then all of a sudden you go back to a sketch that you did 3 days ago and you didn't like it then, but then you listen and you go, oh, that was it. I had it. You play it for your filmmakers and they connect with it, and then it's somehow it's given to the world, you know? I mean, like the Walking Dead main title has these very simple aggressive string notes. Da, 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 da. And I don't know when I wrote that if I would have thought I have written an idea that will last for decades, that will be associated with this show forever, right? I just you don't know that in the moment, but there was something about it that was magical, and I sent it to the showrunners, and it like we kind of eased into it, and then but it's funny, I literally cannot imagine The Walking Dead without that now.
Yeah, being such a iconic theme as well in t all of TV as well. That's such amazing insight. I want to follow up a little bit on that last question by talking about the God of War duology. Of course, Kratos and Atreus, they go through such a powerful journey, and their development and transformation as characters is an absolute emotional roller coaster. How does the music surrounding these two characters, especially Kratos, change and develop as their character does?
It's one of, I think, the stronger character arcs that I've written for any character is for Kratos and Atreus, and there's a third leg of the stool, Faye. Faye is their deceased wife, mother. There's this trinity of themes, a Kratos theme, an Atreus theme, and a Faye theme that all function in different ways. And interestingly, I didn't even write a theme for Atreus, the son, until the second game. In the first game, there was the theme for Kratos and the theme for Faye, his mother and father. And essentially, all his scenes were boiling down to him being pulled between these two adults. Whose path is he going to follow? Um, and then in the second game, he has more agency. We play as him. We spend more time with him, and it was clear he needed his own theme. So I sort of, in a way of representing the rebellious teenage son, I took the first three notes of the Kratos theme and played them backwards, and that became the first three notes of the Atreus theme. Like, like I'm going my own way, Dad. I'm not going to follow your path. So the three of them interact in ways that are at times very antagonistic, at other times really fulfilling and beautiful. The most important thing is that you can identify those three themes. I needed to have themes that were discrete, themes that had that indistinguishable magic that you can remember them. And in the Kratos theme in particular, it starts with these three notes, these three sort of low notes that convey a power and a stoicism and a depth, perhaps a depth of anger, depending on how you interpret it. But those were very useful, right? Those even just those three notes, the way that I was able to, I think, plant the seed in your mind. Um, it was a very effective tool. So I think that those three themes had a lot in them, and it took me years. I actually took me a year and a half to write the first two themes, the Faye and Kratos theme, and then I spent, a couple of years later, I came back to it and wrote the Atreus theme. So it was a long time. It was a long time coming together, but it is not lost on me that I studied with Elmer Bernstein, one of the greatest film composers of all time, and I started in television and I scored Battlestar Galactica, and yet maybe one of the most satisfying character arcs I've ever scored is in a video game. How cool is that?
That's amazing. It's great you mentioned those three notes with Kratos too, because I took notice of that, especially between the two games. We first hear those three notes when we first meet him. They're very low, menacing, and he's standing in the dark as a silhouette when we first hear it. And then later in God of War Ragnarok, when he's rallying all the armies against Asgard, the those three notes become a choir. It sounds a lot more heroic.
Yep.
He's a general now. He's about to lead his people. I'm going to wrap this up, but I would like to close with a final question that is a little bit more personal. I have always had a bizarre yet profound love for the hurdy-gurdy, being my absolute favorite instrument. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask, what is it like to learn how to play and play the hurdy-gurdy? And why does it always sound so good on any soundtrack?
Well, I will say it sounds good on any soundtrack because the performer in question has invested the time to get that beast in tune. It is such a finicky monster. Um, I love it because it's so odd and expressive. And anybody out there that wants to hear a good example of the hurdy-gurdy, go check out the main title theme I wrote for a show called Black Sails,
Yes. Yep.
which features it profoundly.
Yeah.
um, I also use it in God of War and a lot of other projects, but there's something about it. It is I want to say a primitive instrument. It predates the technology of a bow. So at least in Europe, the idea of taking a string and resonating it, really the first instruments that were made to do that had this wheel, and you turned the wheel by turning a crank. There are murals that are 1,000 years old showing a hurdy-gurdy. Now, keep in mind what you and I think of as a violin, 200 or 300 years old, right?
Mm.
So it's like, and even the idea of a bow really came into prominence in the Renaissance. So this goes back, right? I think what I'm saying is there's something in our cultural history that this sound brings back, and that's very exciting for me.
That's amazing. It's my absolute dream to at least try one day and just get a feel for
Are
it.
you a, are you a
That's great.
musician, or do you play an instrument?
Yeah. I started playing bass. Started with that, and then I started sort of kind of experimenting, not so much learning fully, but experimenting with other instruments. And been always wanting to branch out and
you
try the
you
more.
have you have the dexterity to do it. I mean, if you're already playing a string instrument on your left hand, that is where the hurdy-gurdy was tricky for me because I was a keyboard player for many years. I didn't pick up guitar until recently. The right hand, there's some wrist things you can learn, but the basics of it is very simple, right? So, I mean, I would highly recommend that you just pick one up. And the rule of thumb is like, if you get one that's too cheap, it really might not be any good at all. But if you spend a couple grand on it, it's probably gonna suit your purposes. And they can get much more expensive, but you don't need to go that expensive. So I think if you spend 2,500 bucks and you find the right one, you'll get a good instrument. I think you can be able to get a great sound out of it.
Amazing. I'll run down to a shop that has one and I'll tell them that Bear McCreary himself sent me. Bear, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you today. It's been such an honor to meet you. I've been such a massive fan for so many years. And